Merry Christmas, everyone. We hope you had a happy holiday.
Yes, I guess this is after Christmas when you will see this. Hope your holiday was happy.
So we have a bit of a present to share with you because we appreciate all of your views and all of the people who've come over to Facebook and commented and found ways to reach out to us. And we just really want to tell you how much we appreciate you.
Yes, we do. We want to take this opportunity to thank some of the people who have inspired us the most, and also hopefully give you guys kind of a gift of where that inspiration came from, because we think that it might be able to benefit you too.
So we're going to share with you our top 5 inspirational channels, the 5 channels who have really kept us going through this refit and given us not just the vision of the future, which is important about where we want to go, but also about how to get through where we're at.
How to get through where we're at, how to survive the moment. So without further ado, and in no particular order, here we go. All right, the first channel is The Rigging Doctor. Now, we ran across The Rigging Doctor because they have a Morgan 45. We recognized that a lot of the refit things that they were going through were also things that were very similar on our own boat, which was kind of exciting to know.
Like the kitchen, the big giant hole in the kitchen.
Big gaping hole where the countertop used to be. And this is that huge space that we've been talking about.
So at the bottom, we'll put all the stuff that we don't access all the time.
Yeah.
Also, they have an electric motor. Actually, an electric yacht motor, which is what we were looking to buy.
That you see in the YouTube channels with electric motors are smaller than us, and so we're
Right.
such a big boat that seeing that they were able to do it helped us make the decision about how we wanted to do it.
Right, they have a 20 kilowatt motor, and we bumped ours up to the 30 kilowatt motor because of some of the things that he talked about with his and watching his videos.
Right. So the other thing that we saw on them was that they had Dyneema rigging
Yes.
on a big boat.
Just installed these stays last night, climbing all the way up the mast to attach them.
A bigger boat, a 45-foot boat, a near 15-ton boat having Dyneema rigging is not real common. Seeing that he had done that on his boat gave us the extra confidence that we needed to go ahead and do that on our own boat as well.
The other thing we love about The Rigging Doctor, Herbie and Maddie do a fantastic job of teaching. They have some fantastic videos where they teach about weather and about currents and about recognizing what's happening out on the ocean. And
Right.
as new sailors, that's really interesting to us.
You can see we keep the red marker on the 1020 line. So the 1020 is actually your ideal. And if you see that the pressure gets a little higher than that, like in our case where we're at 1022, we know that we need to turn north towards where the pressures are lower. In general, there's going to be a big high pressure system in this area and a nice low pressure system just north of it. A lot of people are worried that if you don't have a motor, you can't stay perfectly on course and then you're gonna get lost at sea and bad things are gonna happen. That couldn't be further from the truth. So when you're out at sea, you just sail to the winds that you have. If the winds are taking you more north, don't fight them, just go a little more north. Later on, they will turn more south and you'll go back down and you're fine.
And that information actually has led them to be able to cross the Atlantic Ocean twice with an electric motor. So we know that that is something that we can do too.
We can do too.
Yeah.
So we really love you guys.
Thank you so much for your teaching.
We're off, we're sailing. We actually raised our sails while we were still leaving port, and I cannot articulate or express in the proper words how liberating this feeling is to be under sail again and to have wisdom carrying us to our next destination. It's just this feeling of freedom that you can only understand if you're a cruiser. This is the perfect.
So channel number 2 is Sailing Uma. And Sailing Uma caught our attention with their refit. Their refit is amazing. They were able to do things with a little bit of cash and a lot of creativity.
Now they have a Pearson 36, which is a little bit smaller boat, and in the process of their refit, they also went with an electric motor.
One of the things that you see over and over again, if you're actually looking at it from a perspective of I'm not going to have a diesel engine, what can I do and not do? They show us that you can really go anywhere and you can do anything if you're willing to wait, and there's nothing wrong with waiting.
That's because we're going against the current.
All right, okay.
We got this.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. Come on, baby. Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Fill that chip. Oh.
Yep, it was 4 hours of just this.
So they've done all kinds of stuff that a lot of people don't do or think is not a good idea to do with an electric motor, and we've appreciated that with them.
We just sailed under the Brooklyn Bridge.
This is awesome. We've got about 2 knots of current behind us, and with the sails up, we're adding about 2 knots, and we're sailing at 4 knots up the East River. It's
Yeah,
perfect.
Brooklyn Bridge, Manhattan Bridge, Puma sails.
And that lets us know that even if there's no wind, it's not like you're going to die.
Yeah.
Right?
It's okay.
It's okay.
Right? It's
Let it be. It'll come back.
Right. That's one of the things that Uma says, is that they're never in a hurry to go anywhere ever.
The next thing that they're doing that we've appreciated is that they are actually taking their boat up into the northern latitudes. And that's exciting to us. Why? Because where do we want to go with ours?
Well, we want to go into the northern latitudes of Europe, but we also want to sail back to our home state of Alaska.
Right.
It is absolutely beautiful out here today.
Thanks, guys, for your effort that you put into your channel. So the next channel up is Sailing Zingaro. Now, James has a kind of a custom-built, like 38-foot catamaran.
Yeah, I think it's a Crowther Spindrift.
It's a little different than our monohull. The initial thing that drew us to him was his Dyneema soft shackles.
Because we were looking at Dyneema rigging, and I was running through YouTube and researching Dyneema rigging when we found him.
What's up, YouTubes? This is James from Sailing Zingaro. I'm gonna show you today how to go from this to that. Oh, yes, sexiness. This is sexiness right here. It'll be like that on the deck. Way better than the crap I had before.
And so even though he's on a catamaran, there are so many things that while we aren't doing that particular type of boat, we love Zingaro.
He's a really good teacher, and he is very creative in how he's able to fix things because he doesn't have a big budget to deal with.
The whole thing weighs about 35 pounds. It's not heavy. Took the top back off, put it in the female mold that I made with plywood, and finished what I needed to do.
It's always fun and interesting to see how people solve problems when they're by themselves.
Yeah, and that they don't have a lot of money to just order it and wait for it to come in.
This sucks. We're gonna have to take it apart right now.
Todd had actually put a deposit down on a porta boat, and I was like, I don't think so.
I need you to get the main halyard. I'm gonna tie this around the motor, and then we can haul it up by the motor. Well, that dinghy definitely leaks bad. I think we might have to get a dinghy before we get a water maker. Or we can just fix this one again, I guess. I'll fix it.
In true Zingaro fashion, we did not consider the dinghy a complete lost case yet. Break it, bail it, fix it, sail it. There you go. That's our whole thing.
We appreciate understanding how you fix these problems and that these problems exist and how do you deal with them. So it's kind of fun to watch them deal with this stuff.
But point of fact, James and Sailing Uma told us don't buy a porta boat.
Right, right.
So the other fantastic thing about Zingaro is they go places other people don't go.
There's a beach behind the Moai that's really pretty and it's pink sand. This place is special. And in the water, oh my God, all coral everywhere. You can see the difference in color, that's sand. Everything else is coral.
We all care about our environment. We all want to see our things be able to be passed on to the next generation. And James does a really good job and teach us is how to be environmentally conscious without being super pretentious about it.
It's always a good reminder how what we do impacts even the most remote islands.
This lonely island paradise is heavily affected by the world's plastic problem. The only reason this beach here looks relatively clean is that we're in the lee of the island, and the windward beach is where most of the plastic trash accumulates. James walked up and down the beach the last 10 minutes, and he picked up the biggest pieces of plastic that he saw, and this is what he got.
So most of what we found is fishing stuff. This is all for fishing, buoys for fishing, buoys for boating. This probably came off a boat a long time ago. It's sad to see such a beautiful place be so polluted.
And it's so far off. That's what strikes me the most. It's insane that it's so far off civilization.
Yeah.
And we managed to pollute this place without even touching it.
This is single-use plastic. This was probably laundry detergent or fabric softener that somebody filled up, sold, and now it's on the beach in the most remote island in the world. It sucks. It sucks to see that. If you can, use bulk items. Don't use single-use plastic. This is why. Okay, let's gather some of this stuff up and go.
We appreciate you, James, and we are excited to see your new adventures on your Oyster 48.
So the next channel is Project Atticus. Desiree and Jordan have an Allied Seawind 30. That was a pretty old boat when they got it and pretty darn beat up. But they went through a budget refit, bringing this thing back to life, and they did some amazing things.
So basically all that water is coming from the leak in the scuppers. One of the main goals that we have for this refit is to try to get Atticus leak-free. It's so frustrating. We've got so much to do, and I keep making so little progress each day. Yep, it's raining. Oh no. This side's a little too tall. I just keep coming up against walls with every project that I start.
Yeah, watching their refit helps us have hope over the last 2.5 years. We've actually reached out to them. I know that I've had conversations online with Desiree where I'm like, does it ever end? Is it worth it?
They give us hope. They understand what it's like to be in the boatyard way longer than you wanted to be.
Yeah. So the other nice thing about Desiree and Jordan is that they show us the good, the bad, and the ugly. And they share what it's like to be a budget cruiser. So we're going to be figuring out how to do this on a budget. And they have done this.
You're raising us work, bud.
They show us what it looks like to do the laundry with rainwater, how to gather the rainwater and be able to do that without a water maker.
Oh man, but we're almost full.
Good.
Desiree is my hero. I want to be Desiree when I grow up. She is bilingual. She goes shopping by herself without Jordan. She wanders into these villages and just does what needs to be done.
All right, well, I'm back on the little shit and did pretty well. Got a lot of food. Might have passed a bakery on the way home. Might have gotten cinnamon bread. Got my little bucket of water. Put in my little drops. Since we've both gotten worms a couple times, that's kind of our best friend right now. So hopefully we'll stay worm-free is the way to be. All right, I I just kind of laid everything out that I bought, and I spent about $100 today, which is kind of crazy. It'll definitely feed us for like 2 weeks. Pork, bacon, and then ground pork, 4 chicken breasts, some canned goods, stopped at the bakery, lots of produce. Not bad, but $100 for all that is pretty crazy.
And not only that, she can sail the boat by herself. You know, I aspire to be Jordan when I grow up because, you know, I'm 5'5.5" plus maybe a little teeny bit. And he's like 6'4" or something. So, you know, if I could even just split the difference with him, I'd be totally happy.
Right? And they have a catch. So that's a big deal to us. There are not very many videos, sailing channels doing the catch. Is Dylan McGaster. And Dylan has a Morgan 38, which is also similar to our boat.
I bought this 1979 Morgan 38-2 sailing boat at the age of 23. I'm 24 now, with only 7 days of sailing experience. On January 18th, 2016, I boarded a plane in Kansas City and flew to South America with just over $1,000 to my name in a backpack full of camera gear. How did I go from living out of a backpack to owning a boat? That's a good question. I had a strong will, the sacred stubbornness, the American spirit, and the refusal to give up. Ambition!
Dylan is a little bit different than the other channels because Dylan, as a younger person, really has traveled the world all over by himself and then decided to buy a boat and travel the oceans.
Yeah, with no experience, which that's kind of where we're at. And he is a fantastic storyteller. He tells the good and the bad. Like when he got his anchor stuck and couldn't pull it up and had to like let it go.
I put the buoy in the water, make sure it's all clear so that when I let go, we'll just drift away. There will be no snags or anything like that. Then it's like, well, this is the moment of truth. Here we go. I wait for the boat to go down into a wave and I yank the chain out of the windlass and I let it go. It falls into the sea, and then there's just a big black buoy floating where our anchor is.
He narrates and tells you, yeah, this is where it all started to fall apart and this is what happened.
Takes full responsibility.
He takes full responsibility.
As we were preparing to make way, the forecast looked to be sustained 25 to 35 knot wind right on the beam. Jackson braved the helm for the first portion of the sail and we were moving well. But there are many things that I was uncertain about. This is where I believe that I began to make a series of mistakes that turned this mishap into a catastrophe. I feared that the continued beating we were about to take from the remaining 60 miles would be too much for the already weakened davits, so I chose to lower the dinghy into the water and tow it behind. Many mistakes were made since Atticus, but a clear rookie mistake was that I had elected to leave the outboard motor in the dinghy strapped to its sole. This is the only footage we have of that event. Loose the cleat!
And we're able to learn from his experiences and hopefully not have to have the same mistakes for ourselves. That's one of the things that's really important to us as we start looking at channels and who we will follow and who we support through Patreon, is that we want to learn things. That's why we're on YouTube. So they need to be great teachers, not just doing travel logs and showing us beautiful places and that this was so much fun, but that we actually can learn something from him. So he does really good travel logs, but it's backed up with philosophy and history and lessons learned.
Right.
Skopelos. It's a great island, really nice Greek island that is still like proper Greek island feel. From Skopelos, we sailed kind of around the island to the island of Alonissos. The Greeks always give me a hard time for saying that. They're like Alonissos or something like that, and I have yet to pronounce it correctly. People are always trying to escape the city to go out to get a bit of nature so that they can have some peace of mind. When you have that balance of living on an island where you're surrounded by nature and you're surrounded by community And I think those are the two things that are really missing from the Western world, especially in cities, that I think the lack of those things are what cause the mental illness that is so prevalent in the Western world. I think a large part of that has to do with the lack of integration with the natural world and knowing your place on the planet, and a lack of community. We are a social animal, and it is absolutely necessary for us to have a community in order for us to be mentally healthy.
So community really is important. We did not grow up in a sailing community, and so these YouTube channels have been our community. They're the ones that are teaching us and inspiring us and showing us what to expect, telling us what not to do so that we could learn through their mistakes.
Right. They're introducing us and pushing us to actually expand ourselves. We got some great physical friends that we've met in our boatyard, but we also have all of you who we consider part of our community and part of our friends. And we enjoy the conversations we have with each of you and the comments that you guys make and the difference we make in your life, hopefully with our channel, but we want you to know that you also make a difference in our life.
You really do. And if you don't know this, we did not turn our comments off on purpose. So if you go down into the description, there is a link to a place where you can leave a comment. You can also come over to Instagram and Facebook and get into the more daily things that are happening and get a sneak peek into the future videos. So we are just thrilled to be building community around us and to have you be part of it.
Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and even more importantly, have some grand adventures this coming year.
Yep.
And share them with us.
Bye.